Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed is a spiritual crossing of the threshold to the world of being a truly expanded human being. Join mediums Cheryl and Kelley for conversations about discovering deep spirituality, developing your intuitive and empathic skills, and personal mediumship. Each episode will focus on tips, tools, and techniques to help you understand and expand your own inner gifts of life journey. Now, your host of Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed, Kelley and Cheryl.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's program of Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed. This is a very special night. We're going to be talking about spiritual hypnosis, past and future life regression. I do want to say hello to my colleague first. Let me say hello to Kelley Eckhart. Hi, Kelley. How are you tonight?
I am good. Thank you, Cheryl. How are you?
Good. It's great to see you, Kelley.
Yes, I'm glad to be back again.
Thank you. Great to be here with you tonight. And everyone, for those of our viewers who are just joining us, welcome. And please, we want you to know we'll be taking your questions, or you can email your questions to our website. It's questions@seeingbeyondradio.com. We do have a special guest tonight. I do want to introduce you to Debra Taubenslag, who is going to be talking with us this evening about spiritual hypnosis, past life, life between lives, and future life progression. Debra has been so nice to be with us on the show this evening. And this is her second book, and I'm hoping she'll talk about this tonight. It's her latest book. It's called No Stone Unturned: How My Special Needs Child and I Transformed Against All Odds. So I've read a little bit about this book, and I am very excited to hear more about it. So I want to welcome our special guest, Debra Taubenslag. Welcome, Debra, to our program.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
It's just great to have you. And there's so much. I hope we can get all of this in with this hour, because you're somewhat of a transformational mentor. I know you have advanced degrees in hypnotherapy. And so I'm just going to hand it to you, if you don't mind sharing with our audience about what you're doing with your hypnosis training and you're writing your book.
It started decades ago. It actually started when my son was first born. He was a preemie. I thought he was gas. He was that premature.
Wow.
And I didn't like the odds that the medical profession was giving to me. They said that if he survived, he'd be severely cerebral palsy. That's what he had. And he wouldn't be able to walk, and he would have terrible mental deficits. And I said, I wanted so badly to have a child, and I was so upset that I remember he would be filled with all kinds of tubes and wires, and they would constantly put needles in his head to drain out the fluid. He had hydrocephalus. He was there for 3 months. Wow. And the only way that I could actually reach him is, at the time, I didn't know, I would be massaging his aura, because I couldn't massage his body. Oh. And that's when I saw the heart monitor would slow down, and his chest would take some nice, slow breaths. And the nurses were pretty amazed by that. "What are you doing?" I said, "I have no idea what I'm doing." I said, "I'm just doing what a mother would do. I'm trying to connect with my son." Yeah. And that's when I realized that there was something about trance, and I didn't really understand it at first, but because I first went to massage school just to be able to massage his cerebral palsy legs, because he couldn't walk, he couldn't do anything. And 3 years later, he was walking and even running. I mean, it took a long time. It was really quite a miracle.
That is amazing.
Yes, it is. But that's because he never heard, "You're never going to walk." He always heard, "Of course you're going to walk. When you're ready, of course you are." And I really, truly left no stone unturned, trying everything, whether it was metaphysical or from the East or all kinds of energy work and herbs. And I mean, you name it, I tried it. And I didn't stop. And I'm still not, he's 38. I'm still doing it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. And he's 38 now, huh?
Yes, yes. But
Wow.
the massage led into hypnosis. I was massaging at a local gym, and there was a teacher, a professor from Rutgers, was on the table, and you know how everybody just goes into like a mellow, relaxed state.
Right.
Well, she went so into a deep hypnotic state just from touch, just from massage, that she started having a conversation with her deceased mother. And then they started arguing back and forth. And I was like, what is going on here? And then when the massage was over, she said, oh my God, what happened? And I said, I don't know what happened. And she said, I was so relaxed that I just feel I went into a
It's your
trance. And I
touch.
said, oh, I have to, she had a healing because there was a lot of things that had to be said between the two of them, and they did. And I felt like a fly in the wall. It was pretty quite amazing. But that's what led me to hypnosis because I had to learn. So I did
Yeah.
get a doctorate in clinical hypnosis, and I was pretty bored with it because once you get a taste of the metaphysical hypnosis, there's no turning back.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like your son introduced you to the path, or, because of your son, you went looking for answers.
That's exactly what happened.
Is that what happened? And from what I've learned from your interviews is that the doctors, you had to find your own answers, right? You had to, because, they weren't so optimistic, so to speak. And you
Oh no, they were preparing me for a very challenging life ahead. Now, I'm not going to paint a rosy picture and say it was perfect because it was absolutely not perfect.
Right.
But, it was a miracle. It was awe-inspiring, and I had to teach other parents because they had to see that it wasn't just a miracle for me. Mm-hmm. That our mind is so powerful. It's so powerful. My son was such a guinea pig, and it just led me to open up to other world realities through the eyes of not only him, but through other clients as well. To everything that's under the sun. I said before, I felt like I was a little kid in a candy store, and that we all are, because it's such a wonderful experience to know that we're so much more than our physical body.
We are, and it's amazing. I don't know if I told you this before, Deb. I think we talked about this, but like my son is on the autism spectrum. He's high on the spectrum. But when he was very young, it was difficult because he had this, what they call sensory processing disorder, and he would get, he didn't understand personal space. And he was born with one side of his body was very strong and one very weak. So that, like dyspraxia, I think they call it. So weak hands and all that. And so he wasn't like my other two kids. And they were telling me he was dyslexic and he was this and he was that. And he didn't like school. So we went in a different route, and I did unschooling. And I didn't do any of the therapy for dyslexia or any of that because I just felt like they wanted to throw a label on everything. And we never gave him a label. And we just let him learn the way he wanted to learn. And he's totally a well-adjusted, happy 16-year-old now. And he's actually in college 2 years early.
Isn't that amazing? It's so wonderful.
No dyslexia, no learning disabilities, none of that. They just don't know what to do when they're not normal. Yeah. If they don't fit in the box, they want to give them this little label. They want to medicate them or do something to try to fix them and make them normal. But really, they're special and they're amazing when they're not.
Well, and neither was Einstein, and neither was Edison, and I could count so many more others because you gave him the flexibility, to just say, be who you're supposed to be who you really are. You turned the light bulb on for him.
And he's, he's happy. We did social skills classes that overcame the personal boundaries because the zombie arms weren't working anymore. That's another thing when he was little. Zombie arms, not too close, because he would get this close to everybody. He just didn't get it. But a lot of things he had to learn that other kids knew naturally. He didn't know how to tuck and roll. He was missing that instinct. When you dunk a baby they hold their breath. He was missing that also. So he didn't know how to, he couldn't hold his breath in the water. It took a long time to learn how to swim. He didn't learn to ride his bike till he was 10 and a half, or the others learned at 4. You know, like a lot of things were just later, but he
That's
did it
right.
when he was ready.
That's
And
right.
he's fine, and he does them all now. So why do we have to have these like labels and these time frames to do everything? You know, that's what our society does, and everything's about money and pharmaceuticals.
True.
We don't need that. We don't need all that.
And the educational system, you're absolutely right. You know, everything has to be according to testing.
Yeah.
But there are so many wonderful empathic kids who are natural born healers, and these are the kids that are different.
Exactly.
True.
That's my son. Both my boys were like that. Yeah.
And intuitive, right?
Both
Oh,
of
yeah.
them. Aiden's like,
Mhm.
you know, very, very connected spirit too, but he's shut it off, right? Because he wants to be normal for teenage years, and that's fine.
That's
But
right.
yeah, I taught him all of that. You know, it's amazing, and I think it's so beautiful that you trusted your intuition with your son, and you followed that, and it led you on this journey
Mhm.
of where you're at now. I mean, I feel like that's the same thing with my son. I would never be here where I'm at now if it weren't for Aiden. He's the beginning of my spiritual journey. I
Yes.
started it because of him, because I wanted to help him. You know, it's so interesting how these kids come to us. It's beautiful.
Well, they choose us.
Yes.
Yes.
They, absolutely. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how many countless sessions I've had where people have told me when they've been in the life between lives state, and they say, oh, you know, this is, you know, the woman I've chosen to be my mother. And I would ask, have you known her before? And most of the time they say yes. And same with the dad and siblings, because souls travel together over and over and
Yes.
over again, for good, and maybe some other times that we just need to learn how to get it right this time.
Right. Can we
Yeah.
ask you, Debra, speaking of hypnosis, can you help our viewers understand, you know, maybe a difference or a definition like between the terminology that we're using tonight, you know, hypnosis, spiritual hypnosis, that we'll just start there. 'Cause
Okay.
I love the term spiritual hypnosis. It's
I
I
do
do
too.
too. Let's
I do
teach us
too.
all about that, because I find it fascinating. Yeah.
Well, when everyone thinks of hypnosis, they usually think of smoking and weight loss or stress management or a stage hypnotist, and they're going to cluck like a chicken. All hypnosis is really self hypnosis. A good hypnotherapist or hypnotist will guide the person to go into a deep, relaxed state. So imagine that you're getting a massage where you just feel so, and yet mentally you're 1,000 times more alert than you are right now. So it's very similar to when you were riding in the car as a kid and your parents were having a discussion in the front seat, and you chose to ignore the discussion and just look outside the window and just kind of like tune them out. So you knew you were in the car, but you chose to go inward and into your own thoughts. That's what it feels like. How many times have you been driving down the road and you're like, oh my God, I'm home already? You're like, how did I drive? I must have been on autopilot. But you were in an alpha state. So right now we're in full beta consciousness. And an alpha state is when we're super creative and obviously very intuitive as well, because we go into a slight little trance when we're doing readings. I like to work in the alpha, but preferably when I'm doing the deep trance work in theta. THETA. And that's the state when you wake up in the morning, you want to finish your dream, you know you have to pee, but you want to be the director of your dream and you want to finish it. And especially if you didn't like the way the dream and where it was going, you just want to like
Right?
fix it, right? And be
Yes,
your own
I know
playwright.
that feeling.
So that's like a theta state, and that's a wonderful place. You're still very consciously aware. You're just in a very altered state. But your conscious mind never escapes you. Never, never. Unless you go into delta. And delta is more when we're sleeping. And that's useless. So we don't use delta in hypnosis. So clinical hypnosis is the stress management and the stop smoking and the weight loss, and maybe, you know, for fears and phobias and things like that. That's what I have my doctorate in. And, you know, I did it. It was okay, you know, because I enjoy helping people. But my very first client shocked me, very similar to like what Brian Weiss did. And there was no turning back after that spiritual hypnosis.
Mm.
When you're doing the clinical hypnosis, the hypnotist does all the talking, and the person just lies in the chair and it just and just listens. So you could even actually plant very positive suggestions to your children when they're sleeping. If they're not in a, if they're in that light sleep, if they're dreaming, they're in a much lighter, they're not in this super deep sleep, because they will take that suggestion.
Okay.
However, the type of hypnosis, the spiritual hypnosis that I do, it's a very interactive dialogue. I do not give you any of the answers. I say, go where you need to go, wherever that may be for your highest good. So it may be in a past life where you have series of past lives, or you may just have one in particular that is really affecting you now. If you're having a series of past lives, it's because it's a repeated pattern. You may bypass the past life altogether and just jump into the life between lives state, where you would meet deceased loved ones, or meet your guides and teachers, or go to the Akashic records, or see exactly the different projects that you're working on. You may go into a parallel life. You may go into the future in this life, or in future lives, if you're creating specific karma that needs to be looked at now, so then you can change it. You could even go to other planets. I've seen it. I don't want to say I've seen it all, but I've seen a lot to just go, and just when I think I can't be awed anymore, I feel like God just throws me a lightning bolt and says, try this one on, Deb. And I just love it. It's just such magnificent work.
Yeah, thank you. Someone just put in the comment section, Courtney said, love all your art, Debra. And just let our viewers know, if you haven't been to her website yet, Debra Taubenslag.com is a spiritual artist. Beautiful artwork, Debra.
Oh.
I don't know, did this just come to you also? Is this part of the
work that's behind me? That's called process painting, and I never heard of it before.
Process painting.
Yeah, you just go into this room and it's loaded with all kinds of acrylic paints and big gigantic paper and the brushes. Everything that you need is just like right there, and you're not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to say one word or have music. I guess you can have headphones on. So, because there's 6 other people in the room, and then you just paint what is coming to you.
Wow.
And whatever it is. So, if you can see like that big circle, everyone thinks it's a fisheye, but it's actually, it's thought forms. And that big one is birthing of a new thought form into material existence. So, and I didn't realize that that's what I painted until I got home and hung it up. And I was like,
and then you see it.
Thought forms.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. So try it. It's called process painting, and they're all over the country, and it's pretty reasonable.
Gonna try it. I'm gonna text myself process.
And you don't have to bring anything. You just have to show up. That's what's so great about it.
I love it.
That's very cool. I like that too. I'm very artistic and love to mess around with that stuff. I'm not great, but I love it.
Well, because it's not about judgment, and it's not about really right. It's in the process. That's right.
Yeah, I actually paint rocks just for fun in front of the TV. I have all these rocks out in front of me, and I paint.
And I bet the colors are really important.
Yes.
And maybe you're even putting codes into the rocks. Who knows? Because you're in a trance state, you're in an alpha state when you're painting.
Yeah, I get all into it.
It's hypnosis.
It's
many times I go in. I'm sorry, say that again, Kelley.
So relaxing and calming.
Oh, yeah.
I know, Debra, there's a YouTube video with you and your beautiful son, Nicholas, and he was talking about spiritual hypnosis being his favorite way of healing that you were helping him with, because it had to do with like energy centers and our chakras, and once again going to color. And but you were, well, like you said, it was a cooperation using spiritual hypnosis. You're working with someone, listening to them, and going where you're being drawn to work, right, with your
Yes.
energy work. So I loved watching you and your son Nicholas talk about spiritual hypnosis and how important it is in healing. And from there, it feels like that's when people go into the past life or the lives between lives feeling. Is that right? That
Or
just,
or wherever they need to go, because so many women sometimes come to me and say, "Oh, I want to know, where I know my boyfriend," and
oh,
I'll say, "Well, you've stated that out loud, but you're going to go where you need to go, because your higher self might decide there's something a little bit more pressing that you need to see." And so that's why I always say, you're not necessarily going to go where you want to go. You're going to go where you need to go, and always for your highest good. So I never know where they're going to go. I just direct them, and I don't plant any suggestions to tell them to go specifically to a specific place. Never, ever, because you're the expert of you. I'm just an expert travel guide, but you're the expert spiritual traveler, and we're going to go on your spiritual journey.
I love
So that's why it's so eye-opening, because our conscious mind is directed by our ego. We think we know everything about us, but we don't. There's so much hidden agenda that that we don't know what's triggering us. It could be from our childhood, which is buried, or it could be ancestral. It could be from other lives. It could even be entity attachments. Sometimes I had to do hypnosis on entity attachments, kind of therapy with them to kind of get them to go to the light so I could get back to the client.
Oh,
Nice.
amazing.
Just never know what's going to happen. But it's
Yeah.
always so healing and so profound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and trusting. I could see trusting the information that's coming, or trusting to feel safe. Like I would feel safe with you, Deborah, like just that relaxing
Yes,
and
of
Kelley,
course.
right? Like you could just, we could imagine that happening about, and so may I ask you, like, do you see clients in person, number one, or are you working on Zoom? Are you doing both? And then do you recommend people coming to you, more than one time, or do you do a series of regressions, so to speak, or?
Okay. To answer your question, I do both.
Uh-huh.
I work out of my home, but I also, will do, obviously COVID made us all work differently. And like even this weekend, I'm doing a retreat with a fascial release specialist. So it's like issues in your tissues. So she's doing the morning fascial release teaching, and I'm doing the afternoon, past life and life between lives and future life progression. Because people are really interested. And I think it's because now it's so much more acceptable and open than it was 30 years ago. I mean, the 70s, you had people that were dabbling, and obviously Edgar Casey opened up, but many people didn't even know who Edgar Casey was.
Right.
And Dick Sutphin, of course.
Yeah.
But things have really changed, and I'm really happy about that, because I believe that the more people are open-minded to what else is out there, then maybe they would be a little bit more kinder and loving.
Boy.
Especially since they know that what they do now has a direct effect of what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. Your event that's happening, that's on your Facebook page. I saw that. That's coming up September 23rd, as you mentioned.
Yes.
That's happening in New Jersey. Can
Mhm.
you tell people, are there still tickets available, or can people still join you?
Sure, but they have to be willing to come to New Jersey. Yeah.
We might be reaching some people in your area tonight.
Yeah, we might.
So,
Okay.
but it's a 1-day event, September 23rd,
Yes. Mhm.
in person. And I love your program, working with the body, the physical body, relaxing with your colleague, and then you doing the afternoon session of hypnosis.
Yes. I mean, if we all know, I mean, psychoimmunology is now taught in medical school. So we do know that we store emotions in our cellular body and in our muscles and heart, etc. We know that it profoundly affects our health. So I just take it an extra step further and say, well, because it is mind, body, and soul.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that the soul is very neglected, and it's important to realize that you do have a soul. In fact, some of my most soulful moments is when I helped both of my parents cross over into the light.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And it was very confirming. My dad actually saw two, he calls them spotlights, and he was like, and I said, yeah, that's your parents, Dad, go for it.
Oh, I
And I
love
told him how he would be celebrated, and he came back from a medium reading, and which was fabulous. It told me that he was very grateful that I helped him by letting him know that. He was not a great hypnosis subject, though.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing, because if you're nervous
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh, I'm going to lose control, then you block that.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was so wonderful. She was like, not only, see, this is what's so wonderful about the hypnosis. Some people, if they really want to experience it, they'll say, okay, I'm going to watch as if I'm watching a movie, and I'll be an observer. And that's okay, and I'll say, well, what do you see on your feet? And they might say, well, I see high button shoes. That's great. But then there are other people who jump right in. They're right in their body. They're experiencing everything on every single emotion, because that's what they want. That's what they need. And those are the people who have the most profound effects, for obvious reasons, because they're experiencing it yet again and changing the dynamics and changing the story.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I would like to know, what would you consider them, other than your son, the most profound, I wouldn't say, like, experience you've had working with this spiritual hypnosis with a client?
Oh my goodness. There's so many that have shocked me. But I
Right.
think the one that taught me the most, she was an elderly woman. She was curt. She was blocked. She had very, I want to say, hard and difficult relationships with her children. She felt very loveless. She was divorced twice, and she had a lot of resentment and bitterness and anger. And she went into her childhood and she had this severe resentment, the most, to her mother. And her mother was very emotionally abusive and very physically abusive. And she felt that the reason why she is because of the mother. And she didn't want to do any forgiveness work or any inner child work or anything like that. So she went into past lives and she saw where she knew her mother before, and that because her soul was completely guiding her. She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she still had such a hard attitude. But when she crossed over into the life between lives, she saw that there was a circle of maybe 6 different soul family members who were not necessarily her family in this lifetime that she knew. And she was hugging each one and talking about each one. And she was so excited to be reunited, because it was like a soul family reunion. And there was one, and she knew, that it was the most loving and she had the most bonded connection with her, but she wore a mask. So she's like, take it off. So slowly the mask came off and it was her mother. And she was like, oh, and she couldn't understand. And it reminded me of like when we saw the movie with Bruce Willis, and when he was the psychiatrist, when he realized he's dead.
Yes, yes.
Sixth Sense.
Six.
But she had that like, oh my God, oh my God. And then she just started crying and crying and crying. And then she realized that this most loving soul loved her so much that she volunteered to play the role in her play, in her script that she wrote, as the nasty mother, for very specific lessons that she needed to learn. And she was so blown away by that. And I was blown away by that. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, We write life scripts, and everybody, volunteers, to play the parts. And this loving character played the most abusive role. And it was just a role.
Mhm.
And she left. You could just see her whole demeanor changed. She sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And it was, and she just felt so much better, so
Mhm.
much better, and so alive
Mhm.
Oh,
and
I
filled
love
with
it.
love.
I
She,
love this.
the first time, I think, forever in this lifetime, she felt love for herself.
Mhm.
And I'm still thinking about it right now. And that had a profound impact on me.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
Yeah, it really, really was.
Do you ever use sound when you're doing this? Just certain tones or anything when you're doing the hypnosis? I'm just
Or
curious.
music, or music in the background, or
I do
Yeah.
there were there's a music CD that I love. She's a sound therapist, and it's Janalea Hoffman. And I think Janalea is such a pretty name.
It is
But
quite
she has
beautiful.
rhythmic beats that put you into a natural
Ooh.
alpha state.
Mhm.
Say that
And
again. I
it's
need.
called musical acupuncture, because every now and then you hear a ping, and it just sends you there. So
Wow.
it's very different than regular typical new age music.
So it's Jonalea who?
Hoffman, HO, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, MAN.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
I
is
usually
it good?
start,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
Thank you.
wonderful. Musical acupuncture.
Oh no, this is rhythmic medicine.
Well, yes, that's hers, rhythmic
Oh,
medicine.
okay. Thank
The
you. Okay,
CD I have is musical acupuncture.
now I have it. I
It's
just
an
want to
oldie
have
but
it.
goodie.
I want to look
Yeah.
at it. I love stuff like that.
And
Music's
you
like
would love that when you're painting.
yeah.
You would love that when you're giving readings.
Hmm. Certain sounds will put me right into a trance.
Absolutely.
It's pretty
I
cool.
and it's really funny. This is a bizarre story. My husband and I were in Florida, in Port St. Lucie. We were visiting one of his friends, and he hadn't seen his friend since childhood. And his friend didn't speak a word of English. They're all Italian. So my husband says, "Oh, my wife will do a smoking cessation for you." But he told him in Italian. I said, "Does he speak English?" And he said, "No." And I'm like, "I'm going to kill you." So, but we went into the back because he had a bakery, and he sat on his stool, and I used my voice, and
Mm.
I spoke very, very slowly,
Mhm.
and I lowered the tone of my voice,
Mm.
and I made sure it was very calming. And I hypnotized him, because there were signs when someone is hypnotized. Their head will droop,
Mm-hmm.
the shoulders will relax, the jaw will relax. And I just kept going, and I was laughing to myself and said, the guides must be translating.
Yeah.
That's the whole. And you know what happened? Because my husband actually spoke to his brother, like maybe a year or two later, and the guy really did quit smoking. So he did take the suggestions, but
That's
it wasn't,
amazing.
and that's, I mean, talk about, transference.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
understand
amazing.
how he was able to understand the English.
Yeah.
Energy, vibration, you're right? Of
Exactly.
communication, right? Not verbal.
Exactly. Well,
Oh,
it's the same
yeah.
as mediums. We can communicate with anybody, no matter what language on the other side, because it
That's
doesn't
right.
matter what we speak, right? It's that
Mhm.
energy language. I do want to take a moment to I feel like we need to make a couple announcements here, Cheryl, because we're a little bit past halfway mark, but this is our last week on the radio station WLTK-DB, because they're going to be gone. So we will be doing the show on our own channels and on Facebook and YouTube, Cheryl's her business ones and my business ones. And we just want to make sure everybody knows next week will be the format of the show is going to be slightly different. Here's links, but I'm not going to leave them up here, but they're in the comments, and I'll post them here in the
Yeah.
comments for everybody. But
Mhm.
I want to make sure we have time to tell everybody that, so that if they go right now to the station
Mhm.
next week, they won't find us.
Mhm.
We're not going to be on that YouTube page. We're not going to be on any of those channels anymore. We're just going to be on our Facebook and YouTube for now, and we're trying to set up our Podbean so that we can figure out how to maybe post other places as well. So we just want to let everybody know that. And I thought also it would be a great time to answer questions from anybody in the comments, or if you want to, if you've sent any emails, we can check the emails. Brianna can post them for us. But now's a great time. I'm sure that there's people have a lot of questions for you, Debra. This is fascinating stuff. And oh, thank you, Brianna. Check out Seeing Beyond Radio. Sorry, I forgot that one. And sign up for our newsletter so you're aware of like any changes or updates that are coming, guys. Okay. But if you have questions for Debra, post them in the comments. Send us an email if you don't want to do it, public, however you feel like doing it. And we will start answering them, because we want to make sure if there's anything you guys want to know, we can help you while Debra's here. Because we know last time we'd had this subject, we didn't have a special person like you, Debra, to answer these questions. We were just kind of, answering as best we could, right, Cheryl?
Yes.
Well, if I could address something that I would like to just make sure that everybody to clarify, because some people will automatically think that they're not in hypnosis, or they're getting frustrated if they don't see, if they're not using their clairvoyance skill, because not everybody, can see. In fact, most people don't, or maybe most people just will get snippets. Because using that example, if I say, what are you wearing on your feet? And if you see high button shoes, you'll say that. But some people may feel the tightness of the laces, and they'll say, oh, I think I'm wearing high button shoes. Or maybe they'll hear in an English voice, high button shoes, or maybe they'll just know it, and they don't know how they know.
Yeah.
So, there's no right way or wrong way. It's just your way. And that's really, really important for most people to understand. And if they feel, because they feel like, oh, but I'm supposed to be like out of it, and like as if you're like in a dream. Well, those are the somnambulists. And most people are just, like I said, in that very deep, relaxed state. Consciously, they know they're sitting in the recliner, but they're just enjoying the experience. And it's very similar to like when we're so absorbed in film that we're crying, that we're fearful, that we're feeling all kinds of intense emotions, because we're so absorbed that we completely forget that we're sitting in our living room watching television. Yeah. We know we are, but our conscious mind takes that back seat. So that's just really important to get that.
If I could add, thank you. If I could add, for people who have fear or who have never tried hypnosis, the way Debra is describing it, to actually try it once and then try it again, because what happens is you learn to relax when you do it a second time too. The first time might be okay, but then try it again with Debra, and then you'll find that each time you're so relaxed. And as she mentioned, it's a focused state of relaxation where you are more aware and more alert than ever, and you could come out of it at any time, but you like the feeling of how relaxed you are. And as you mentioned, Debra, how much more aware your awareness is open, right? Your intuition,
it's unbelievable.
You're in an altered state.
Yes. Now, people come for all different types of reasons, not just problems, or not just, anxiety, or wanting physical, what's going on here? No. I mean, yes, of course they do. But many people come because they're either at a crossroads, they need to make a decision, or maybe, they want to change careers, but they don't know what they want. Maybe they're just spiritual seekers, and they just really want to have the adventure of it all.
That's amazing.
Or maybe they have trouble conceiving. I mean, there's, and they want to see if there's any blocks. Maybe they're having trouble grieving, and they want to be able to move beyond that, grief. But there's so many times in our day when we're fantasizing and we're daydreaming ourselves. I mean, that's in a self-hypnotic state. How many times have you gone to a country or to a place and you're just, or an ethnic food and you're just so attracted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Deborah, that you mentioned. So for everyone who's listening, just remember that I believe what you're saying, Deborah, is that we're more in a hypnosis more than we know. Like
Absolutely.
we're in a hypnosis state more often than we know, whether it's going to the movies and being transformed, in that way, or you mentioned driving home and not remembering how you got home so quickly or what roads you took.
Or when you miss your turn, that's right.
You miss your
Story of my life. So Deborra, that sounds like trance to me a little bit as well, or an
But
altered
it
state.
is.
Yeah.
Of
Okay.
course
So
it is.
okay, and we have a couple questions, you guys, that I think I'd like to address here. I
Right.
mean, we know the answer to this one. It says, Maria would like to know, do you heal trauma? Of course you do.
Mhm.
You're right. But do you do
Yes.
it remote as well, or is this all just in person?
Well, when I started out, of course, it was always in person, but now, now I've even done with other countries.
Oh,
So it's
that's
just,
beautiful.
because as long as I can have a visual, I work
Mhm.
with Zoom.
Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to book an appointment with you. Gwendolyn says she works with special needs patients in the
Mm.
O in the OR for the dental surgery, and she introduces herself to them, and then they smile, and she'd love to be able to calm all the children for surgery. Any suggestions?
Oh, that's a wonderful place. I've
Great
done that too. When
question.
my son was gagging, and trying to get, a root canal done, I had to go in and hypnotized him, and the dentist was very, very, very happy. And I recently did it when he was getting a skin mole removed.
Oh,
So, what I'd like to do is start out with energy healing. And the energy healing, laying on of hands or whatever it is, she can just, and just say, just imagine, just pretend. In fact, I'm going to show you how easy this is right now.
Okay.
And a good friend of ours, we do a hypnosis panel every Thursday night on Facebook. He taught us this technique, and I love it. And it's great with kids.
okay.
Just pretend, because you have a wonderful imagination. So just close your eyes. Close your eyes, Cheryl. And our viewers out there, just pretend that you are the greatest actor or actress in the world. And because you're such a great actress in the world, you can pretend that you're being hypnotized, because it's easy to pretend, because you are the best actress. And it's so easy to pretend right now that you can just imagine that your shoulders are dropping, just lowering the shoulders. That's right, because you're such a good actress, pretending that you're in a wonderful hypnotic state and pretending that your jaw is dropping, just relaxing. And it feels so good to just pretend that you're so deeply relaxed, and pretend that your breathing is slowing down. Yes, and your heart rate is slowing down, because you're such a good actress and you're so believable that everybody just believes what a remarkable actress you are, because you're so good at pretending, relaxing so well, so good. You're doing so good. Such a wonderful acting job. I bet you could even win so many awards as you're pretending to be so relaxed, so deeply relaxed. And you can also pretend that your right arm is cemented to your lap or the chair, wherever it's resting. And it's so deeply relaxed that you can count to yourself from 5 down to 1. And with each descending number, as you're pretending, 5, you're so relaxed because you're such a good actress, pretending, going deeper in this relaxed state. 4, 3, pretending even more, and you're doing so good, so well. 2 and 1. And you may find, because you're such a good actress, you're so good at pretending to be so relaxed, you may find that your right hand and right arm is glued. And on the count from 1 to 3, try to raise it, and you may find it just cemented to your lap or the chair, wherever it's resting. 1, 2, 3. Try to lift, but the harder you try, the harder it remains glued. And that's because you're such a good actress, such a good job pretending. You see? And as you're pretending, you can even pretend that you're at the most wonderful favorite place in the whole world where you're so relaxed. And maybe you're with someone that makes you feel so loved and so special. And maybe you're laughing, and maybe you're giggling, and maybe you're just having such a good time, but you're in this really safe, comfortable, relaxed place. So it doesn't matter what's going on around you because you're so deeply relaxed and you're so happy to be here and you're so happy to be with your loved one. So I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and this time do lift your hand. 1, 2, 3. And know that each and every time you lift up your hand, in fact, pick a finger that indicates yes, and just raise that finger. Good. And pick a finger that indicates no. A different finger. Good. Very good. And you can use this wonderful, wonderful way to signal to yourself anytime you want to go into this wonderful, happy place. Or you could be in the car driving. And if you want to make sure you're going the right way because you forgot to put your GPS on, you can ask, am I in the right direction? Am I going the right way? And your finger will either say yes or no. Or you could be in the food store and say, is this food healthy for me? Is it for my highest good? Yes or no? So your finger GPS is like a pendulum. And it's just easy. And you can even ask the child who you're working with, if you'd like to stay in this place, great. And if you'd want to go to Disney World or Disneyland, you can go there now. You see, you could go to the circus. You could be at your best friend's house playing. You could be in the schoolyard chasing after the boy you have a crush on. Anywhere you want to go. Anywhere you want to go. That's right. And on the count from 1 to 3, your eyes will open. You'll be in full wide awake state, feeling so good and so happy. 1, 2, 3. Eyes open. Wide awake, wide awake. Now, I started off being, talking to a child, but then I thought, well, you know what? I might as well give Kelley and Cheryl and who's ever listening, just like these little yes or no, those are mine.
Yeah.
I use it all the time because it's very discreet.
That's
Anytime you're in
nice.
a meeting or just when you just don't want anybody to, you want to go check in with your higher self or your guides. Oh, it's a great way to talk to your guides too when you want to be
I
discreet.
love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
I couldn't lift my arm, so I'm so glad you had us lift our arm in the end. It's like, I can't really lift my arm. I'm cemented to the.
I know. I tried earlier and it felt so heavy. But at the very end, I
It's
came
amazing,
out
right?
before
No,
you ended
that
it.
was
I
clinical.
opened my eyes.
That
Yeah,
was clinical hypnosis.
it's
Yeah.
Where,
beautiful. I
the
love it.
hypnotist
I
does
would
all the
love to learn
talking.
how to do that. Do you teach that?
Um, I can teach it, but it's just, I usually refer the clinical hypnosis out because I like to have, as you do, imagine Kelley and Cheryl, if you were doing all the talking and there was no dialogue.
Well, no, but I want
Because,
to learn how to do the spiritual one. That's what I mean. But
oh,
that
that,
I've
of
learned it
course I
all,
can
but
teach
yeah.
you that. Yes. And it's
Yeah.
so easy. It's really, truly is easy because
Yeah.
the client has all the answers within. You just tell them to see. That's where I'm a little different than my colleagues. My colleagues will direct them to a past life and they'll give them all the suggestions and they'll just move them along.
Mhm.
And that's great. And they'll give them what the client really wants. But I feel that the higher self really knows what's best. Not my higher self, the client's higher self. They have all the answers within. And,
Yes.
I could use my intuition. In fact, many times I go into trance with them and I'll see exactly what they're seeing, or I'll feel it, and then, yeah, but I don't want to jump the gun,
Yeah.
because I don't want to plant suggestions.
Right.
And
Almost trusting
yeah,
the higher self or the client's unconscious to bring to the surface what is needed at that time to be.
that's right. Because some memories are not meant to come to the surface right now.
Mhm.
And if you think of how many lives we could have lived in our past, including parallel lives, there are very specific lives that need to
Mhm.
come forth.
Yes.
Or maybe, I can't begin to tell you how many people have had lives in other planets, and that was their real home.
Mhm.
And they're just coming here to have the experience. And many times, they're here to be, we use this term light worker, but they're light workers.
Right.
They've come to just help. They didn't come because they have to.
Yeah, we do have a question coming in, but before we read this question, everyone, I do want to share with you that Debra has a wonderful book. It's available on Amazon, and if we can post that link, please.
Yes.
It's called No.
I can show it. This
Oh,
is
please.
this is the new one.
Oh, that's your
Beautiful. Oh,
newest.
it's gorgeous.
It's so beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's called No Stone Unturned: How My Special Needs Child and I Transformed Against All Odds. And
Yes.
thank you for writing that book, because I
Thank
think
you.
you were able to answer a lot of questions that we even addressed on the show today. So,
So
Well,
Cheryl,
I mean, obviously, he did do a lot of hypnosis with me. In fact, he was so trying to fit in. He hated his body, he hated his brain, and he was very frustrated for most of his childhood years. And it wasn't
hard.
until he experienced a very specific past life where he actually went into a body selection room. And I didn't send him there, he went there.
That's
And he
great.
saw 4 different bodies.
mhm.
And he said, "Oh, this one is female. I need to be male in this life," because he's seen himself in female lives as well. The second one was too easy. He says, "No, no, no. I have very specific lessons and challenges I need." The third one was way too challenging and difficult. He said, "I can't take it. It's too hard, and it's too hard for you." And then this one that he had, which I think was really challenging, but he was just like, "I can handle it. I can handle it," and it changed everything. He realized, wow, he saw his Akashic records. He met with he had a whole bunch of guides and leaders, including my dad, who came through for him. And
That's
they showed
beautiful.
him, this is what you wanted to accomplish. This is the play, the script that you wrote.
That's
And then
amazing.
he saw a barometer of how he was doing. I said, "Oh, I got to get the show on the road here." That's right. And it was a life changer for him.
I love it. Kelley,
That's
what were
amazing.
you going
Well, I was gonna say I had a question too at the same time, so I feel like we have 2 questions I'd like to read.
to
So do
Okay.
you want to go first with yours, Cheryl?
Oh, no, you go, Kelley. It's good. I
Okay,
just saw them coming in general.
yeah, I saw them coming too. So there's one here from way earlier from Badar. I hope I'm saying that right. It says, "What can you tell us about future life progressions? Are you able to do that?"
Oh, of course. I'm doing it on Saturday too, because
Oh,
many people will go into a future life, including the future in this life. And the people
yes.
who go into the future life is because they're really creating heavy karma right now. And they need to see, almost like in It's a Beautiful Life, or with Scrooge, where,
Yes.
he had to see, what's going to happen. And they go into future lives for that very specific reason. There are others that go into a future life, because they want to be able to take that, just like we can take knowledge from our past. Like Kelley, I know you're going to Egypt, and and I'm sure you've had many past lives, probably as an Egyptian priestess or priest, who knows what gender you were.
Yeah.
But I'm sure many lifetimes, and you can take that magical essence from back then and bring it into the future in this life. There are people who will
Yeah.
travel into the future to bring it down into the conscious level as well.
Oh, I love
Because
that.
Einstein's theory of relativity, it would be like you're on a rocket ship, and if you're looking at America, that may be the present life, and Europe may be, the past lives, and Africa is the future life. And it's
Yeah.
all happening simultaneously.
Mhm.
I think
So-
Mavis used to call it like droplets of God, when
Yeah.
people would get information that was just like beyond our capacity at that time, right?
Mhm.
Like Einstein, and some of the
Well,
other
he
famous.
used to go into trance all the time, and
Well,
so
they
did
all
Edison.
of the amazing people that created things
Yeah.
in the past. That's what they all write about. Something that sounds like trance.
Right.
Yeah.
But they actually, I don't remember if it was Einstein or Edison. One of them used to hold little balls with chimes in
that's
the
right.
hand.
Yeah.
And he would say, I'm taking a nap. But he would go into trance. And the reason why he held because he wanted answers.
Well, you don't
And
want to fall asleep.
That's right. Because the chimes would wake him up if he fell asleep,
Yeah.
if he went into Delta.
Exactly. Mhm.
Yeah. I love them.
I know.
Especially Einstein. He was so metaphysical.
Well, here's another.
Go
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, Gwendolyn
another
is
good
going to
question.
get that book. I think it will also help me understanding our patients more. So just to let you know, one of our viewers, Debra,
Yeah.
Gwendolyn, who asked you about the children in the OR room.
The dentist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did a lot of hands-on healing with him too, which I didn't know what I was doing. And even now, my son loves.
But your intuitive side did. Your higher
Yes.
self knew what you were doing.
Yes. But I start every client in the chair I'm in now, and I will just do, I just do what's called mesmer passes, because when you do this, brings them into a nice natural state, and I want to create a resonance. So we're both breathing at the same time, and we're both connecting, and we're linking up. And then, then I start to feel like their energy when they come in is like this. And then when I feel the heartbeat, they just feel like toasted. That's when I say, okay, you feel toasted. Yeah. Like I said, then I transfer them into the recliner. But that's good with all the patients, to be able to talk with them. And nurses can touch them here, or you can ask, can I just want to be able to touch you here, or wherever they want, or, on the head and laying on of hands. It's just a loving touch, but it's transference of energy. We know that.
Yes.
It's
beautiful.
And
I
it
actually
helps.
could feel your hands moving when you were doing that over here.
Yeah.
I could feel the energy. I was like, oh, that feels really good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, animals love it too, right?
Mhm.
Now, Cheryl, you know that.
Animals would be very helpful with healing, especially with trauma, but with people trusting the process too, having their animals with them, or once again bringing healing to the animal. It's kind of reciprocal or
It
reciprocal.
is. It's an energy exchange. You're absolutely right. In fact, right before I came on, I was reading about the healing energy that horses give to people, not just to special needs children, but to people
They're
who have
amazing.
suffered trauma and depression and
Yes,
anxiety
they-
and bipolar.
yeah.
They give off some type of, energy exchange. And I didn't know that.
I love that.
I didn't know that, but I knew it, if that makes sense. I've always felt that. I just didn't know if it was true, but I've always connected with horses. I've never had them, but I feel very connected to them. And I love doing readings with horses. I do a lot of horse readings, believe it or not. And
Well,
I think
because there is, again, it's that resonance. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some good questions. It's 8:01. I do want to answer one more, Cheryl. What about you?
Yeah, let's do one more, Kelley.
You pick. There's one that's asked twice. Amanda's asked a couple times.
Yes,
and then
if you
Tina.
find it, go ahead and post, please.
Oh, yeah, right here.
Thank you.
So it says, my question is, what if you were missing an organ? Can you heal yourself from that? I had my gallbladder removed and now have bile reflux flare-ups. I want to know, is that something I can heal by working on it? Or is it something I will have to deal with the rest of my life? And I can also relate to this. I'm the same as Amanda. I don't have my gallbladder and I have a lot of that reflex as well. So this is a great question. Thank you, Amanda.
My first thoughts is to either connect with Shelley Stockwell Nicholas. She is the world's, and I mean world's, expert because she travels all around the world. She's the founder of International Federation of Hypnotists, and she's profound teacher, but she's the most amazing. She knows how to stimulate the vagal nerve with hypnosis, and she's the world expert on that. I think she calls it neural hypnosis or vagal neural hypnosis, something like that.
Oh, well, look,
And she wrote a tremendous book on it, and anything to do with physical healing and the vagal nerve, it's profound. It's really profound, and I would suggest contacting her.
I will.
She's on Facebook. She's on her website. She's everywhere.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Shelley Stockwell. Shelley is Shelley Stockwell Nicholas.
And we posted the links right here for everybody too in there for you.
Now I know that, with spiritual hypnosis, she could go in and get a clarity of, why this happened, and just to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
Right.
I really love it. Yeah.
But
I'm all about
healing.
This kind of stuff. Yeah. I think if we could heal ourselves, and I think we can, like you said, you didn't know what you were doing, but you were doing it. I mean, I did that with a pregnancy. They told me I was going to lose the baby and to go home and wait for it to happen. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I laid my hands and I talked and I sent energy, and I didn't know any of this back then. So yeah, and I didn't lose the baby. So I think that, we have to remember that we're more powerful than we know.
Yes.
Believe it.
And we also have a lot of help.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot.
A lot of help from the unseen.
We're very connected.
Angels, and yes, we are in charge. Divine angels and guides and loved ones and ascended masters, unseen friends. Definitely realizing that we have that team of support, is really, it is a miracle and a life change in itself. And thank you.
Yeah. It's been a great subject tonight. I feel like we have to have you on a second time again soon. So we'll have to, do this again, because I feel like there's more to talk about, and everybody's really loving it and thanking you. So
thank you.
Oh, and thank you, Brianna, from the back. We know that you're getting all these links for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna, behind the scenes. And so for everyone, just to let you know, for this evening, once again, you've been watching Seeing Beyond Living Transformed. We are moving from WLTK, but you'll still be able to reach and see our show. You can go to our website, seeingbeyondradio.com. Also, you can watch us live on Kelley's Facebook and YouTube channels, and mine, my Cheryl Murphy Facebook and YouTube channels. We will be back next Wednesday at the same time. So we're keeping the same schedule, right, Kelley?
Yes, we are. But we're just going to we're not going to be in all the different channels. I don't know that WLTK-DB was posting to, like Twitter and Twitch. We're not posting there yet. We may at one time, but at this point, just YouTube and Facebook, right, Cheryl?
That's right.
Yeah, just those two for now. And hopefully we won't lose anybody. You guys will find us. And look for our newsletter or sign up for it if you're not already, because we will make any announcements or be sending out links from the newsletter as well. Okay. And thank you so much, Debra, for coming on.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
I love hearing your stories and learning from you. And I hope that our viewers book appointments with you, because I think you're amazing. And and I just wish the best, and I hope you come back again. Thank you so much.
I would be thrilled to. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next Wednesday on Seeing Beyond Living Transformed. From Kelley and Debra, myself, thank you guys so much. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Namaste.
Bye-bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.